What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike here, and I have the honor of sitting today and talking with Alastair Train, the writer, director, and executive producer of the new horror short Pearls. Alastair, how are you today?
I'm very good, Mike. I'm very good and really excited to get into this and to talk about the film. Thanks for giving me your time.
My pleasure. So, I have to ask, I was looking at the press notes. The first thing I really want to know, you said that this idea was sparked by a bizarre encounter that your brother had with an oyster. Please
Yeah,
expand on this.
yeah. I mean, there's not many films where oysters are key anyway, but basically, my dad and my brother were up in Scotland together, and my they went and got a plate of oysters, and one of the ones was looking. Well, I think the term my brother used was thick, foamy, rather unpleasant. So my dad, obviously being the caring father he is, was like, "Go on, eat that." Obviously, just daring him to do it. And he just said it was one of the worst things he ever ate. But I was kind of like, what? But what does that mean? Like, what is this oyster? Like, what was wrong with it? So basically, what it turned out is that he ate a fertile oyster. So all that white foam was well, yeah, let's just say oyster eggs, just to keep it PC. And I was so horrified by that idea that he just ate this oyster. I was kind of like, right, already I've got that's an idea straight away. Like that is the beginning of something. I don't know what it will be yet, but I've got an end point, which is okay, you eat this oyster, and well, I don't know how much of the film people have seen, but something bad happens, let's say.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil it too much here. We want to talk
No,
about
no, sure.
get people to see it. So now you explore a lot of different themes with this. I mean, you really do look at toxic masculinity. You look at the fertility issues that couples have, and this one was interesting. And what I appreciated was that in this case, it was more from the male perspective with the issues with fertility, which we don't commonly see in film, but is an element. What was it about exploring these topics that excited you to kind of delve into on this project?
Well, yeah, I mean, what was interesting was having, again, like the concept of something needs to happen with this oyster and work backwards. And kind of what sort of came up first was like, okay, oysters, they're known as aphrodisiacs. So I was thinking, okay, this character needs to eat them because, yeah, he's impotent. But what I was noticing was as I was looking more and more online into aphrodisiacs, what are they? Like, why they're used, I was noticing how Facebook, Instagram, X, whatever, was starting to target me with adverts about impotency or hair loss or low testosterone. And I felt, obviously, of course, impotency is a huge issue for women as well, but I felt the way it targeted men, especially me in particular, felt quite aggressive. It was almost like you're not a man unless you take this. So I
Mhm.
kind of wanted to make the film. I never wanted to specifically say, oh, it's this one reason that they're having these issues. Part of it could be it's psychological, is it physical? But men, there's the stereotype that we don't like to open up to people about our issues. We don't like to, if we can avoid a doctor, we will. And the whole point was, in my mind, it was like people offer these, these pills to fix you, but what are they? Like, what the hell are they? And what could actually happen to you? So that's sort of where it came from. It was kind of like how we're targeted by the media or by these companies and the devastation it can cause. And in a lot of ways, the lead character, Tony, you know, he's caught up in this, obviously in all this, and he feels he has to prove himself. But in some ways, I think he's a villain because instead of doing the right thing, which is talk to your wife and open up, he just condemns them basically.
And now talking about those journeys, so all three of your characters in this go on some quite interesting journeys. How did you go about, what was your casting process like? Like how did you come to this trio? How did they come to be?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, it was the classic standard. Oh, looking on Spotlight, which is the biggest UK casting site in the UK. But I was looking for people who sort of had like a sense of quiet desperation about them. Obviously, for Tony and Linda, so Rory and Helen, just went through a standard audition process, but they were the two that really gave me this feeling of this sadness and this unwilling to sort of open up in a way. And like Helen, so Linda's character had this. desperation that all she wanted was her husband to open up to her. And it was actually super easy. Like the moment I auditioned them, I was straight away like, it is these two. They understand the story. They know what they want me to what they what I want to get out of them, and they were just a pleasure to work with. Mark, who played Marvin, the oyster salesman, was actually a bit more complicated. Like we'd done a normal casting process, and no one felt right. Like everyone was too grand or too big, and actually his story to me is also a tragic one. You know, he's someone who he's also trying to keep his family alive. So I needed someone who could sort of bring that reserved nature about them. So we were looking online at sort of classic actors. And so Mark, funnily enough, there's this long running TV show in the UK called The Bill. He was one of the main characters on this show. He was in Quadrophenia. So me and my producer just thought, you know what, let's reach out to him. He's got a great show reel, great presence. And he was like, of course, I'd love to be a creepy oyster salesman. Why not? And he had some great ideas. And honestly, all three of them, it was great to work with all of them. You know, they were just such a pleasure and just interesting to take them on that journey with me.
And as you were piecing this together, because you have some interesting scenes and some interesting moments, was there anything that you were most excited to shoot or anything that you were a little bit like, here we go?
Yeah, I'd say in a lot of ways, I'd say, okay, there's two. Like the ones I was kind of more anxious about at the beginning, I'd actually say would have been the some of the sex scenes. Like they're very, you know, they are awkward to film. We did have an intimacy coordinator, so we managed to talk through it before. But it doesn't get any less awkward than being like, just going to put a camera right there and we're watching you embarrass yourself
Right.
completely, especially the opening scene. In terms of my favorite parts, like anything in the lab, the oyster lab sequence was just so fun to shoot. The finale was great. Again, I don't want to give too much away because
I
things like
know it's hard.
the bathroom scene specifically was one that I was very excited about. But anything where we got a lot of prosthetics involved and gross, slimy, horrible oysters involved was my favorite parts. I would say though, in a way, the second sex scene, because again, don't want to, I won't go too into it, but like the opening's meant to be sort of this stale awkwardness between them as a couple.
Right.
And then the second sex scene, I've been watching Possessor, the Brandon Cronenberg film.
Okay.
He's got this amazing sequence where they, like when they upload their brain into this other person's body. And I just loved it so much. I was really excited to try and, obviously, I couldn't recreate it perfectly, but give that feeling of like, wow, what am I seeing? This excitement and this sort of just rampant, I guess, sexuality, especially when it being so stale at the start.
And you kind of are, it's like you looked at my notes because you knew what my next question was going to be. You said the fun stuff was the stuff in the Oyster Lab. So talk about the conversations you had with your design team, your makeup team, your effects team to create these images, because there were some fun
Yeah.
cringe-inducing
Oh
moments.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, one thing I'd say, and Alavo, my production designer, like obviously my producer, like I needed her to make this film, but I never would have done it if I hadn't met him. Like he was the one who made me believe what I'd written was actually achievable. And the
Hmm.
script was nuts. It's like this warehouse with thousands of dead oysters everywhere. And he was like, look, we scale it down a bit, you can still get all this insane imagery. So like obviously we were talking about like visual references for a little hint here, some of the transformation stuff where we were looking at things like Chernobyl, we were looking at like like some amazing horrors, like I was showing them bits from again, like mentioned Possessor, like where she's wearing the other person's face. Like we were looking for really visceral visceral examples because I feel like it was super important that everything was practical to me. Obviously there's a bit of VFX here and there, but I needed as much as possible for it to be as real and feel real. And Alavo understood that straight away. So like, you know, he brought down this giant oyster tank that we filled with water. He built the giant oyster that we put on the wall. Like, you know, he 3D printed a lot of this stuff. And it was just like the conversations we had, we were just always on the same page. He was like, it needs to be gross, it needs to be visceral, you need to be able to feel it. And honestly, all I needed to do was meet him a few times and it would just work perfectly.
And I will say, accomplished.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Um, So this is a question I love to ask writers and directors, and so we kind of hit two nails, two nails, one hammer. As you go from project to project, so you've done about half a dozen or so short films now.
Yeah.
As a writer and a director, giving advice to the people, because I'm an educator, so I love to have these moments. As you've gone from project to project, as both a writer and a director, what would you say is one of your greatest, like best practices, like something you take with you as you go from project to project in both of those roles? And what would you say is or has been your greatest learning curve, like that hurdle you try to avoid as you go project to project?
Yeah, and I think in a lot of ways it can answer both. Like I think I've seen people, funny enough, I work at a film school as well. I work at a film school and I've seen people go, this is the best thing, this is incredible, I'll never do better. And straight away I'm like, well, you've given up and you're never going to get better because you should be your own harshest critic with everything you write. Don't be afraid to show your ideas to people. Um, don't be afraid to like question yourself as well. Like it's awkward and you need this confidence, especially if you're going to go, lead a team of 30 people essentially. But if you're not doubting your work, you're never aiming for something better next time. So I feel like my biggest advice would be like get a second eye, trust your trust yourself, but always have that little bit of like, I wish I'd done this better next time. And if you have that, you'll always look to improve. Like again, Pearl's 100% is the most ambitious project I've done. But my previous film, I loved it, but I look at it now and I'm like, oh God, I wish I'd had this. I wish I'd had this. And now I'm starting to watch Pearls on bigger screens and I'm like, I wish I'd had more time here. I wish wish I'd planned my pre-production better. Even though I'd say we did a very good job personally, but it could have been better. So I think it's just keep that self-criticism about you. Like I've said, I've seen people just feel they've hit the limit, and it's like, well, I'm sorry, but then you won't get better if that's how you really feel. It's always tricky with writing though, because like I've gone through dips where you do some writing, you stop for a long time, you lose that momentum, and all you need to just all I can say in that moment is like just be a bit stricter with yourself, even an hour on a weekend if you have that time,
Mhm.
just every weekend, just to keep your brain focused on creative or being creative. And always look for weird moments. And I feel like what some people do, I feel, is latch onto stuff they see in the news. Like I hate to say it, but I've seen things where it's like, my film's about immigration, my film's about this, and you're kind of like, cool, that's part of all of our zeitgeist. But original or interesting ideas are things that you're like my oyster story. That's not normal. It's weird. It's a really weird, odd thing. And kind of what you want to look for is any moment where you're like, that's weird. Just write it down, and then just straight away you can work backwards and be like, can I make this into some kind of story at some point? So I think for me, my biggest lessons would be keep being creative as much as possible with the writing, be critical, and never think you've finished your best work.
Nice. And finally, what is something that you hope people take away from the film after they've watched it?
I hope people, and that's a really good question. Thank you. I feel that what I want people to think is like, is there something that I'm not talking about with someone that I should open up about, really? Obviously the film is gross and it's funny, like people come up to me after and they're like, it's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And you're like, great, I'm glad I've done that. But what I hope, and especially for men and women or anybody, is like the core of the story is this man's keeping a secret, and that secret has devastating consequences for everyone in his life. And I feel that if, well, yeah, for me, what I'd hope is that people would sort of look at that core part of the film and maybe take that into their own lives. Obviously, it's asking a lot for a messed up body horror, but I feel that's the great thing with body horror. So many of them have this core drama that you can infer and take into your own existence.
Yeah. And body horror is having its moment right now. It's
It
really
really
bad.
is. It really is.
And so I guess really quickly, I'll just ask before we go, are you still eating oysters?
I am. I am. Every time I inspect them a lot closer than I used to. And I've literally had people come up to me being like, I'll never eat them again. But I'll still roll the dice.
There you go. Well, to those that are watching, keep an eye out for Pearls, a short film that is touring the festival circuit on both sides of the pond. It's a enjoyable little film. Alistair, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, and we will see you all soon.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Take care.